Hello, episode 18 of Content Marketing Commute. Just me today. Another one of those episodes we call About Last Week. And today I am somewhere very special. I am somewhere new. I am in Amsterdam. And I've been here for a week or so and happy to say, been interviewing some amazing content marketers and marketers more generally here in the beautiful city of Amsterdam, and you've got to stay tuned for that. I think I've done 4 interviews here in my time here, and it's going to be a really cool little run of interviews that we're going to start releasing in the next few weeks on Content Marketing Commute. But that's not the topic of today's episode, although you are here with me in Amsterdam for today's episode, and I hope you're enjoying it. Today's episode is a look back on last week when I was in Paris with Swanson, and Swanson is a full-time YouTuber. He has like 89,000 followers. That's like a stadium full of followers on YouTube, and we discussed what it means to be a YouTuber, what it takes, as well as what B2B marketers can learn from a full-time YouTuber. And I think if you haven't listened to that episode, go back, listen to it. It's episode 17. It's just one behind this one. And go listen to it because it was a fantastic episode. So many insights from someone outside of our space, but insights into audience building, engagement, what it takes to really build an audience. And so many B2B companies could learn so much from that. Go and listen to that. But today I want to pick out just one specific part of that episode, and that's what we do on these About Last Week episodes. We pick out one specific part of the episode and we dive deeper on it. And today what I wanted to focus on from that episode is curiosity loops. Okay, so Jay mentioned the concept of curiosity loops in the podcast, and I thought that would be a cool thing to dive deeper on. By the way, if you are just listening on the podcast apps and you're hearing the sounds of Amsterdam, come on over to the video, link in description, and you'll see the sights as well as hear the sounds that are happening here on my walk through the back streets of Amsterdam. It's so beautiful. So curiosity loops, these, if you watch YouTube and you follow any YouTubers, they are the masters of this, but I think a lot of it can be translatable to B2B marketing and marketing more in general. What I'm talking about here is that classic wait round to the end to hear more, or you're going to have to stick around to hear more about this at the end. And, Jay talked about there was some smarter ways to do that if you can say it without saying it so much. That's even smarter, but essentially it's that, like, in your content, creating moments that pique curiosity and that drive people to want to continue to watch or consume your content through to the end. A few points I want to bring up on this in relation to B2B content and B2B marketing. So first of all, I think in B2B, the reason why we don't do this so much is that we haven't been focused on content consumption as much as kind of like clickbait and just getting people to fill forms, and the engagement with the content hasn't been the number one focus traditionally. And so I think that's something we can really learn from YouTubers, is that they are focused on building their audience. And to do that, the content is the king. The content is the product. It's so central to what they do, which is different to a lot of B2B companies. And so in that way, they want to keep people watching and keep people consuming as long as possible. There's also all sorts of things, to do with ad revenues and dwell time on their videos and watch view through rate. Anyway, but I think B2B companies and B2B marketers could pick up a lot from this. Now, a lot of times what I was saying is, like, especially with gated content, the content itself from a lot of B2B companies is not what matters most. It's getting someone to download it. It's getting someone to give you their email address. And that's what's broken. It's completely broken. Because if you think about what the power of content really is, it is in getting someone to see the world the way you do, educating them, creating that kind of like connection with them over time, which sure is a little bit less measurable than getting an email address. But that's really the power of it. And if you can get people to consume your content all the way through to the end and not just jump off when they realize that it's crap, that should really be the goal. Just come to a lovely square here in Amsterdam. Do encourage you, if you are just listening, come on over to the video, link in the description. You'll see some beautiful sights. But yes, curiosity loops in that sense make a lot of sense for B2B marketers, because if we can shift the goal in terms of getting someone to download something, shifting that to getting someone to consume something, and that goes back to why we're doing content in the first place. Are we doing it just as an excuse to collect people's email addresses, or are we doing it so that people consume it and start to see the world the way we see it, or the way we would like them to see it, so that eventually they're convinced to buy whatever it is we're selling them? Curiosity loops then become a much more interesting thing. And so in B2B marketing, there's so many ways you could think about this. It's not just video, I reckon. It's about optimizing all of your content to be consumed all the way through. So to me, that speaks about a lot of things, and things that come to mind, for example, not expecting them to be fully engaged straight away, but providing a really strong hook up front, whether it's a blog article, whether it's a video, a podcast, whatever it is. What's the hook that's going to keep them engaged? And almost thinking about hooks like not just one, but multiple. I don't know about you, but I lose interest after a few minutes if I'm not pulled back to why I'm kind of watching this, or why this is relevant to me. So making sure you're including hooks throughout, I think is one way to do this well. Now, this episode is a little bit of a stream of consciousness, and I hope that's not too painful to listen to, and that it's interesting and useful to you. But this whole concept of curiosity loops also got me thinking in a B2B context about internal linking. And if you're from an SEO background, you'll know the importance of that in search. But just more broadly in your whole content strategy, like thinking about linking together the different things that you're doing and different formats to create this kind of like web of options of journeys for people. And you know, we talk about the customer journey and kind of like a journey someone might go through the funnel, and I think a lot of times that's kind of a myth, because it's definitely not linear and there isn't one way people are going to discover you and your brand. But if you can, I like the term web, because if you can create this kind of web of options for the journey by linking together your content through curiosity loops, I think that's really cool. So what do I mean here? Like in one piece of content, in one video or one article, you can just mention an idea that might be a little bit outside of the topic that you're addressing in that content piece, and link to it. And it's not just a blogging thing. It could be, in reports. It could be on podcast episodes. Thinking about your whole strategy as linking together all the content pieces as you build it out, I think is really interesting. And it can help people to navigate through the different topics that you're addressing and take their own journey almost through the funnel at their own pace. And so curiosity loops in that sense, it doesn't always need to be within the same content piece. You don't need to close the loop in the same content piece, but you could open the loop in one piece and close it in another, allowing people to take the journey through different content pieces or formats that you've produced. So that's one thought I had. Another thought I had on this, and it's probably my final thought for today's short episode, was around how this links to building an audience. And I touched on it probably just a little bit earlier in my stream of consciousness, is around YouTubers are the masters at building an audience, and B2B marketers and B2B content people are not generally. Generally, we know we have a product to sell.
We're going to vlog.
Well, welcome, man. You're on it.
Yes, thank you.
Just some youths what I was saying is we have a thing to sell people. So we know that that's the ultimate goal. YouTubers, their ultimate goal is to build an audience, is to have followers and potentially sell something, but also make ad revenues and all that sort of good stuff. And so when it comes to audience building and building an audience, they always have a built-in advantage in that space. And you might be a B2B company out there saying, why do I need to even build an audience? And how can curiosity loops help me do that? But I don't even think I need to. Well, you do, because look, we all know that stat, 95% of people in your whatever total addressable market, TAM, are not ready to buy right now. So only 5% are. Got to watch out for these bike lanes. Only 5% are, which therefore means you got to build an audience of those 95. If you're not building an audience of those 95, you're just letting them sit there without even thinking about your brand. And when they are in market, they're not going to be thinking of you. So building an audience is so crucial. And that's why I loved talking to Jay last week. Once again, I encourage you to go listen to it. And I think curiosity loops are an amazing way to build an audience. It's like a tactical way to build that audience, because you build an audience by having those people spend more and more time with you, or see the value in spending more time with you. Tram coming through here. And curiosity loops are a way to keep them engaged, presenting that information in a way that keeps people wanting to watch, wanting to consume. I probably haven't done that well on today's episode, but if you've got to this point, I really do appreciate it. And I hope you've drawn some value from this episode. In the description, there's also a few links to more information on curiosity loops and how to create them. So do check that out. And next week, I'm back in Paris for an interview with Romain Doutrieux, who is head of marketing at Pigment. We talked about content and the CMO, or content and the head of marketing, and so much gold in that episode. How he sees content, how it sits in his team, what makes great content, how a CMO uses it to grow and to drive revenue. You'll enjoy that one. So we'll see you again next week for that. Bye bye for now from beautiful Amsterdam.